time is 10:35 p.m. Good evening. The news headline: Kano Shārīā court officials loot 345 million inheritance deposits. The news in full. Officials of Kano State Shārīā court have stolen around 345 million naira said to have been deposited with the court as part of pending inheritance cases. Freedom Radio in Kano reported that the Kano State Public Complaints and Anti-Corruption Commission had already commenced investigation into the matter, saying that Kano Shārīā Court Grand Kadi Tijani Yakasa also confirmed the incident, with the court secretary Haruna Khalil saying a probe panel had been raised. Freedom Radio said the money was kept in court custody by several families who have yet to resolve disputes over assets left behind by their departed family members. Officials said that the fraud was discovered after the court concluded an inheritance matter and asked officials to release funds to a family. Officials subsequently discovered that the funds had been depleted and other assets held in the court's trust had also disappeared. Less than 10 million naira was left in the court's inheritance owed when the fraud was discovered, the station reported. Freedom Radio said that both courts and the bank officials have been invited for questioning over their roles in depletion of the assets. And the news analysis is that that the Kano Shārīā Court has actually been known for their religious way of dealing with matters. We heard of a case just around last year when a Nigerian singer was sentenced to death for blasphemy in Kano State, where an upper Sharia court in the Hausawa Filin Oki area of the state said that Yahya Sharif, who is actually 22 and a Nigerian northern states musician, was guilty of committing blasphemy for a song he circulated via WhatsApp in March. And we know that Kano Sharia law has been known to be distinct from any kind of corruption or any kind of malpractice that does not go alongside with their religion and culture. And Mr. Sharif did not deny the charges, who is a musician, and Judge Kadi Aliyu Muhammad Kani said he could appeal against the verdict, because the verdict was that he has been sentenced to death by hanging for blaspheming against Prophet Muhammad. And states across Muslim majority northern Nigeria use both secular law and Sharia law, which does not apply to non-Muslims. Only one of the death sentences passed by Nigerian Sharia courts has been carried out since they were introduced in 1999. The singer, who was in detention, had gone into hiding after he composed the song, and protesters had burned down his family home and gathered outside the headquarters of the Islamic police known as the Isba, demanding action against him. And critics said that the song was blasphemous as it praised an imam from the Tijaniya Muslim Brotherhood to the extent that it elevated him above the Prophet Muhammad. And there was question about how common are death sentences in Sharia court, and several sentences have been passed, including for women convicted of having extramarital sex cases, which have caused widespread condemnation. We remember a case whereby the Isba said that they do not want to see any mannequins, especially when the head of the mannequin is actually on it, because it promotes fornication or adultery and arouses sexual urges of the people. So they actually banned any mannequins around their states, and the Isba are actually taking action with respect to this. And also remember that they actually passed a law too, that they do not want to see any full-grown either male and female outside in the night, talking freely on the road. And they have been known for their persistent religious kind of law that is against corruption and different kinds of atrocities. The last time a Nigerian Sharia court passed a death sentence was in 2016, when Abdulaziz Inyas was sentenced to death for blaspheming against Islam during a secret trial in Kano. It was alleged to have said that Sheikh Ibrahim Niasse, the Senegalese cleric credited with reviving the Tijaniya sect and spreading it across West Africa was bigger than their prophet, Prophet Muhammad. And the sentence has not been carried out as a death penalty in Nigeria requires the sign-off of the state governor, and he is still in detention. And how Nigerian Sharia courts work: 12 states in the Nigerian Muslim-dominated north operate the Sharia system of justice, but only Muslims can be tried in their courts. The Sharia system, which also has its own court of appeal, handles both civil and criminal matters involving Muslims and its judgments, and it can also be challenged in Nigeria's secular courts of appeal and Supreme Court. And as a result of this, the Sharia judges are actually known as al-Qalis, and they are learned in both Islamic and secular laws. If a case involves a Muslim and a non-Muslim, the non-Muslim has the option of choosing where they want the case to be tried, and the Sharia court can also hear the case if the non-Muslim gives consent, a written consent. And sentences handed down by the court includes flogging, amputations, and death penalty. And this is the way the Sharia law actually operates especially in Kano State. And just of recent now, one would wonder that a court of law that is actually against injustice, corruption, and any form of atrocities in a Muslim-dominated state, and a kind of case like this is being recorded, where it was said that they looted a whole lot of funds that were meant for inheritance deposits. Like, the money was kept in the court custody by families who are yet to resolve disputes over their assets that was left behind by their departed family members. And now that the officials of Kano State Sharia Court have been alleged to have stolen 345 million naira for these people that are having pending inheritance cases in the court, it is quite amazing and disappointing, because they are actually hold high esteem to be this religious and to be out of the space of committing this kind of corruption and atrocities. Freedom Radio in Kano actually reported this case, and they have complained to the Kano State Public Complaints and Anti-Corruption Commission, where they have commenced investigation about the matter. They said the money was kept in the court's custody. An official said that the fraud was discovered after the court concluded on the inheritance matter. Then, after concluding, they said, okay, the officials should release funds to the family. And the officials subsequently now discovered that the funds had been depleted and other assets in the court trust had also disappeared. You can imagine that less than 10 million naira was left in the court inheritance, and they have now held the court responsible, for this fraud. And both the court and bank officials have been invited for questioning over the rules, the depletion of these assets that are missing, who are meant for the families that have cases to settle, about their departed family members. And now a case of 345 million naira has been held against the officials of Kano State Sharia Court. The time is 10:44 p.m. Good evening. Thanks for listening.